The New York Giants need to make some bold moves this offseason to get this franchise back on track. And I have a few bold suggestions of my own that I'd like to submit for consideration. That's coming your way next on the Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. I'm your host, Patricia Trainer, credential member of the New York Giants media for Locked On, as well as for New York Giants on SI, which is where you can find my written work. And as always, welcome on into my Blue Crew community members, to my everydayers, to my newcomers, and everybody in between. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. And today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use our promo code LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, everybody. Bold prediction time. All right, the Giants have a lot of decisions to make, a lot of work to do on a roster that finished with a historically bad 3-14 record in 2024. What can they do to fix it? Well, everybody's got ideas, and I've got a few of my own that I'm going to throw out there. And I'm sure some of these ideas you're going to hear and you're going to say, what are you talking about? What are you, crazy? But just hear me out. And if you still disagree, just let me know. It's all good. So, all right, let's get into it. I have about five bold predictions, actually 4 bold predictions, and then a wild suggestion that I wouldn't mind seeing the Giants do. I know they will never do this, but I would recommend that they do it. And I'll get to that in segment 3 of the program. All right, first prediction. Round 1 of the draft. Now, I know everybody's saying go quarterback or go Travis Hunter or go home. And folks, the more I think about it, I don't get a feel right now that people are as high on some of these quarterbacks as maybe we think they are. I just feel like, to say we got to take a quarterback because we need a quarterback, I think that's kind of, shopping hungry, so to speak. And when you do that, because, you've got this glaring hole on your roster, you can end up making a mistake. And the last thing this team needs to do is to make a mistake with a first round pick, especially a pick that's going to be projected to be number 3 overall. So what I would like to see the Giants do if they keep the 3rd overall pick is not necessarily take a quarterback, regardless of who's on the board. And you just know that that the Titans and the Browns, one of those teams at least, is probably going to take a quarterback, which leaves the Giants, if they're lucky, with like another choice that maybe wasn't their first choice. And if you can't go with the guy who was your first choice, who was your top graded guy on your board, you got to think outside the box. Now, people are saying, okay, go with Travis Hunter, the two-way star. He solves 2 problems for you: cornerback and wide receiver. But here's what we don't know, folks. Where do the Giants view Travis Hunter? Is he viewed as a cornerback? If he is, I suppose he could solve a problem. But I'm going to get to a cornerback actually coming up in the next point. Or do they look at Travis Hunter as a wide receiver? And here's the thing. If they view him as a wide receiver and they use the 3rd overall pick on him, so now what do? Do you take away snaps from Malik Neighbors? I don't think that happens. Now you could make the case that, look, it would give them another potential number 1 receiver on the team. But the way the offense is set up, I don't know. I mean, I think, Wandale Robinson, Malik Neighbors, 1-2 punch. They're going to probably need somebody to replace Darius Slayton, who I don't see resigning. Darius Slayton may be a number one receiver on another team, but you know, I don't know if I would go with Travis Hunter if I'm looking at him as a receiver. As a cornerback, I could see making a case for that, but I don't even think they go in that direction. So, what direction do I think they go in? Very simple, folks. Where have the Giants been beaten most over the last several years, particularly in division play? The answer is in the trenches. And, folks, if I'm the Giants and I'm keeping that third pick, I go with defensive line. I go and I look at Mason Graham. Now, why do I look at Mason Graham? Very simple. Dexter Lawrence, as good as he is, and let's face it, the man's amazing, but he can't do it himself. He needs a second guy there who can maybe discourage, if you will, some of the opponents from double teaming the heck out of him. All right. Now, I went back and I looked up some stats on Dexter when he played next to Leonard Williams. All right. There's a stat on NFL Pro called quick pressure rates, which is basically pressuring the quarterback in 3 seconds or less. Dexter Lawrence in 2022, when he played with Leonard Williams, had 27 of those quick pressure rates. 2023, which is when the Giants traded Leonard Williams, that dropped to 20. 2024, he had 10. Okay, so that means that Dexter was drawing a lot of double teams. Dexter was being, there were times during the year where I can remember saying, to whoever was sitting next to me in the press box, I'm like, gosh, I haven't seen a Giant defender get double teamed like this as much as I had, I'd have to go back to Michael Strahan, back in the day when Michael Strahan would be doubled and triple teamed. And that's what you saw from, with Dexter. So you almost need to think about getting a second guy there because look, if the Giants are going to go back to their 2 defensive line formation, which is what they wanted to do initially, and they had to abandon that once Dexter got hurt. They went to a 3 defensive man front instead of a 2. You got to have a good partner next to Dexter. And I don't think that they've had that since trading away Leonard Williams. So for me, my bold prediction, go defensive line in round 1. Don't worry about a quarterback until later on in the draft, which I'll get to in a moment. Travis Hunter would be a nice pick, but I think he might be a luxury pick. Go in the trenches because that's where the Giants have really suffered, in my opinion, and where they really need to start beefing up the talent to be competitive, especially against the NFC East. Okay, coming up next, I'm going to talk some more bold predictions, including one about cornerback and quarterback, 2 very glaring needs for this team. So don't go anywhere. Hey, Giant fans, when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. They help you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but who might be open to the perfect role. 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours when they use LinkedIn. And did you know that LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier? They just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions. Find out why 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring by posting your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Hey, Giant fans, it's playoff time. And if you're like me, you'll want to make the most of these final weeks of football action. That's where Prize Picks comes in. If you love football and you want a chance to win real money while watching the games, Prize Picks is the place for you. It's the best way to turn your sports opinions into cash with daily fantasy projections. With prize picks, you simply pick more or less on player stats like total passing yards or rushing touchdowns, and for a chance to win up to 1,000 times your money. You can make your picks in as little as 60 seconds or less. And whether you're looking for a flex play to boost your payout or you want to cash out quickly, PrizePicks has you covered. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, it's clear that people are loving this platform. It's so easy to use. The payouts are super fast. You can get your money in as little as 15 minutes when your picks hit. Plus, the weekly promos like Taco Tuesday discounts add even more value to your lineups. And here's a special offer for Locked On NFL listeners. Download the app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, and we are still 5 days a week, folks. That's right. We're still chugging away here on the Locked On Giants podcast. There's going to be a lot to talk about, with moves that are going to be made sooner than later. We've got the roster building process. And along the way, I'll probably have some guests for you. As a matter of fact, there's one guest that I'm trying to get scheduled who I've had on the show before. And I know a lot of you have liked hearing from this gentleman. So as soon as I can work out a time for him to come on, we'll make it happen. And then, of course, I also want to have some scouts on the program, some draft scouts. So that's certainly going to be in the future for the show. All right, moving on now. Bold predictions. All right, now this one, I got to admit, I didn't initially think about this one until I was writing an article for New York Giants on SI. And I've been saying all along, cornerback is a huge need. And I have also said that I believe the Giants should look into adding a veteran to the group. All right. And I say that because, I look at the wide receiver group and I look at how Malik Neighbors, in an interview for the team's website, spoke about how Darius Slayton kind of helped him with film study and other little things. And, you just can't, in my opinion, underestimate the value of having a veteran in a young group. And really, if the Giants don't retain Adoree Jackson, they don't really have a young, or a veteran, I should say, amongst those young guys. So in thinking about it, a CB1, which right now I don't think we could say Deontay Banks is, CB1 is going to cost the Giants a lot of money. And they have the money to spend, don't get me wrong, but obviously they're going to have to spend some of that money on a quarterback. So here's a wild thought for you, or a bold prediction. What if the Giants, their plan is to move Andrew Phillips to the perimeter next year, and then maybe fill the slot with either Cordell Flott or another guy? Would that make more sense for the Giants? You know what? I don't think you can rule that out. Because think back to when the Giants drafted Andrew Phillips. What did Joe Shane say about him? He said that Phillips has the versatility to play both in the slot and on the perimeter. So they tried doing that with Flott, actually. They started Flott in the slot, then they moved him to the perimeter, but Flott had trouble staying healthy. Why might they try and do that with Andrew Phillips to solve that CB2 problem that they're going to have? Because I don't think they're going to retain Adoree Jackson. I really don't. Now, if they do that, they can then maybe get a quote-unquote bargain veteran to come in. Maybe a guy who can, provide depth at both perimeter cornerback spots, which, again, they don't really have. So that's a scenario I could see happening. And I'm particularly interested to see who the Giants announce as their new defensive backs coach. Because as you guys know, Jerome Henderson was let go. So I want to see who they bring in and what that guy's credentials are and who he's worked with before and what kind of success rate he's had. But that's a scenario. Drew Phillips moving from the slot to the perimeter. I could see that happening. All right, that would not surprise me at all. Okay, let's move on to quarterback. All right, now we all know the Giants are going to get a veteran bridge in here. The question is who? Is it going to be Justin Fields? Is it going to be Russell Wilson? Is it going to be Jimmy Garoppolo? Is it going to be Carson Wentz, Andy Dalton? Who's it going to be? That we don't know. That's actually a little different topic. But I mentioned in the first segment, I talked about the draft and how I don't think the Giants should settle for a quarterback in the round one just because one is sitting there. I could see the Giants potentially using a day 2 draft pick on a quarterback. Now, this is subject to change, obviously, but some of the guys right now who are being projected as second round picks, Jackson Dart, Kyle McCord, and Jalen Milroe. To me, just based on, again, the information that I gathered, Jalen Milroe sounded like the best option and a guy who could potentially be there on day 2. Now, some of you are going to say, oh, there's no way he's going to be there, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, that's all subject to change. The important thing for the Giants when it comes to quarterback is they've got to get themselves a solid bridge guy because regardless of what happens in the draft, that bridge quarterback is probably going to see most of, if not all of the snaps, so long as he's healthy in 2025 while the team or the coaches get another, a young quarterback ready. So I could see the Giants using a second round pick on a quarterback if one is there and the value is there. So just something, again, to think about. Would I like to see that happen? I guess I would, because I'm not right now. I mean, I'll do more film work on them, but right now I'm kind of iffy on the first round options. That's not to say that they can't be good quarterbacks or they can't be, top notch NFL quarterbacks. But you just, based on talking to some scouts, doing some preliminary work, if there's no consensus, if there's no, yes, those guys would be ahead of the guys that were picked this year in 2024, that to me tells me that maybe those guys might not be drafted as high as we think they will be, unless there's a team desperate, really desperate to get one of them. And I just don't think the Giants, even though, you could say that they're desperate to get a quarterback, I don't think it would be in their best interest to shop hungry at that position, especially when it comes to the draft. Because if they blow that pick and we have another, Daniel Jones saga, not good. They just can't have that. All right. I mean, I know a rookie quarterback would buy them some time, Joe Shane and Brian Dable, but you got to be patient. And, we'll see how the rankings change over the next few months with the All-Star games, with the combine, the pro days, and all that stuff. But that's how I feel as of today. All right, coming up, I've got one more bold prediction, and then I've got a suggestion that I would really like to see the Giants implement. I don't think they will, but I'm going to throw it out there anyhow because why not, right? All right, that's coming up right after this. Hey, Giant fans, from the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no more waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and to get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to Locked On Giants. I'm your host, Patricia Traina. And I'm giving you some bold predictions. And I'm sure by now some of you are wondering, what are you, crazy? What are you thinking here? But hopefully, hear me out. Think about what I said. And if you agree, great. If you disagree, you can always reach out and tell me why you disagree. It's fine. As long as we keep it civil, I'm cool with that. All right. I've got one more bold prediction that I think the Giants are going to do. And then I'm going to give you a suggestion that I would like to see the Giants implement. And the bold prediction is I think the Giants should trade down in the first round. Now I know in the first segment I said they should go defensive line in round 1, but if they could trade down a couple of spots with a quarterback needy team, or maybe a team that maybe wants, I don't know, Abdul Carter, or maybe Travis Hunter, maybe they could still trade down and get a Mason Graham, at 5 or 6 in the draft order. It's worth exploring. And here's why I say the Giants should trade down. If they trade down, they're going to collect assets. And folks, the more assets they gather, the better. Not just for this year's draft, but for next year's draft. Because here's the thing, next year's draft, the 2026 class, is going to have a lot more options at quarterback. So you want to have in your back pocket as many assets as you can get for 2026 if you don't get your franchise quarterback in 2025 and you now find yourself in a position where you have to move up, right? That is why I would not be upset if the Giants traded down. Now, I am not saying that they should trade out of the top 10. I don't think they should go very far if they're going to trade down. Right now, I would have to sit down and I would have to play out different scenarios to tell you who would make the most sense to trade with. But if they can work out a deal to move down a couple of spots, absolutely do it. Don't even think twice about it because you'll still get a good player. And if your defensive line help is gone, well, you'll have other options. You'll have an offensive tackle. You'll have probably cornerback. Depends on how far down they go. So I would like to see the Giants trade down and just rack up the assets. Because right now, they have over 20 free agents. And I think, this year, if I had to take a guess, maybe Darius Slayton and Azeez Ojulari will sign elsewhere and will maybe be, guys that could potentially bring in, comp picks. But if the Giants sign a quarterback, which we know they're going to, if they sign a veteran cornerback, which they probably will, those could potentially cancel out any comp picks that they would get in 2026 if they lose Slayton and Ojulari. So, trade down. Why they didn't trade Ojulari when they had the chance is still a head scratcher. I mean, to stand there on principle and say, well, we're not giving the guy away. Yeah, but at least you would have had something. Now you run the risk of not having anything. And I just, I get it. You want to get the most value as possible, but sometimes you just have to say, look, something is better than nothing. And that's how I fear it's going to turn out with Ojulari and Slayton if they move on. So trading down, yep, that would be my fourth bold offseason prediction for the Giants. Now, before I end the show, I want to give you guys a suggestion that if I were making to Joe Shane, if Joe Shane were to come to me and say, hey, Pat, what do you think I should do differently? Gosh, I probably could rattle off a million things. I always joke about this from, letting us back into the cafeteria, the media that is, to not having the pressers out on the terrace, which I don't even know if that's Joe's jurisdiction. But anyway, the one thing that I think maybe wouldn't be such a bad idea is to add an alumni voice to your decision making process. Now, hear me out on this one, guys. We saw on Hard Knocks last year how Joe Shane seems to have a lot of people around him offering opinions, personnel guys, ownership, coaches, etc. That's all well and good. Those people get paid to do that. But there was an element missing this year that I think an alumni could potentially fill. Whether it's, Eli Manning or whatever. They can rotate guys in, however they want to work it. And that is, from a locker room perspective, what is missing from the locker room? We all talk about how they miss Saquon Barkley and his leadership. We talked about, how injuries took away Dexter Lawrence and Bobby Okereke, how Daniel Jones was cut and wasn't able to finish out the season, how Andrew Thomas was lost for the season with an injury. That's a lot of leadership that slowly leaked out the door. So if you're, looking to build the culture, how important is it to have somebody to say, hey, look, yeah, it's going to cost us a little extra to keep this guy, but based on what he brings to the table in leadership, maybe it's worth considering as opposed to just basically looking at a spreadsheet and saying, nah, no, that position isn't worth that kind of money. That's something I'd like to see done. Now, I don't think Joe will do it because, again, it's all about what the personnel and the scouts and the coaches have to say. But to get that kind of feedback, and it's, look, the Giants alumni, you see them in the building just about every day. You see them at games just about every week, home games. I see Jonathan Casillas, I see Victor Cruz, Amani Toomer, Chris Snee, Sean O'Hara. You see so many of those guys. Why not tap into them and say, look, this is what we're thinking. Now they did hire Chris Snee as a scout for offensive line help. That's a start. But again, in terms of the intangibles, which I think we're missing in that locker room, why not consider it? They won't, but it's a thought. I figured I'd throw that out there. So, all right, Giant fans, that is going to do it for this edition of Locked On Giants. As always, thank you for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast, and I will see you again tomorrow.